Kakadosh Boker or Masechet Bava Batra Daf Yomi 14a1. We were just speaking about the entire concept that if you had a Nevi'im, Torah, Tanakh, we're talking about in the Tanakh. Now, if you wanted to cut it, right, in the middle, in order to separate the Nevi'im or the Ketuvim, you're allowed to do it, and there's no Isul, because since it's separating from a Tanakh, meaning a Torah from the Nevi'im or the Nevi'im and Ketuvim, that's fine. In the middle of it, no. But to separate between one, let's say the Nevi'im and Ketuvim, scriptures and prophets, or prophets and let's say Torah or Torah and prophets, that's fine. That's permitted. That's what we spoke about. We spoke about it. That's what we spoke about yesterday. Yesterday we spoke about the entire concept of you had the Tanakh together, meaning not like what we have just a Torah, the entire Tanakh. So we're saying that you're allowed to come and split up the Torah from the Nevi'im and the Nevi'im from the Ketuvim. No, but I know. Maika Amar, what exactly? Maika Amar, that's not a Torah scroll, right? Maika Amar, what does it mean now when we're talking about here? Achi Kamar, it means like this. If you want to come and cut it, you're allowed to cut it. Now, the reason why is because at the end of the day, since you have the shurot, which are all these different lines in between, so therefore you're not going to cut anything else. So, Minhu, we have a contradiction. Here it says that you need the beginning of the Sefer and the end of the Sefer in order to go around. What does it mean, kedelagol? Amud. If it's going to be a right kedelagol one amud, so kashia ekef, that's a question against the entire ekef. I thought that you needed the entire circumference. Meaning we thought that at the end of the Sefer, you needed enough to go around the entire thing. That's called hekef, that you're going around. If it's going to be, so kashia amud, so what does it mean amud then? No. When it says kadesh lagol, each one is on its own. Meaning at the beginning of the Sefer, you need the amud. At the end of the Sefer, it's kadei lakif, right, which goes around the entire thing. That means at the beginning of the Sefer Torah, you need less space than the end of the Sefer Torah. Okay? Ravashi comes and he says, Kitanya, when do we learn this braita? The Sefer Torah, only to do with the Sefer Torah. Kitanya, as we learned in the braita, the Sefer Torah nigla lemtzeito. It's always going to be from both sides. You're going to make an amud from both sides. Those are the two etzeh chaim. The atzeh chaim have to be on both sides of the Sefer Torah. Meaning like this, I'm going to ask you a question. Why do you need two sides? Make it like a Megillah. It's going to be a big fat Megillah, but just make it like a Megillah. No, it has to be that all the other ones, yes, you can make it like that. But the Sefer Torah, you need two atzeh chaim. You need on both sides. So he says, Amar Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Tzedok, kacha yu kotvin sfarim shebYerushalayim nosim. That's what the kotvei sfarim in Yerushalayim used to make their Sifrei Torah. Okay, fine. Another concept of the Sifrei Torah. Yeah, Tanu Rabbanan. En osim Sefer Torah lo orko yoter al kefo v'lo kefo yoter al orko. You're not going to make the height more than the circumference, or the circumference more than the height. So therefore, he comes and he says, meaning the godel otiyot and the ovia klaf, they have to make it in such a fashion to know the size, like the font of the letter, right, and the thickness of the klaf has to be shegolim et sefer gamur. So he says, Shalut Rabbi shiur sefer Torah bekama. What is the shiur of a sefer Torah? So he says, Amalem bigvil, to do with the gvil, which that's the thickness of the klaf, right? Remember the gvil, right? Sometimes they actually used to do it was the or of the be'ema, that they didn't split it, so it was thicker. Okay, so then the gvil was shishat tfachim. The klaf is going to be bekama, and yodeh, I don't know. So Ravuna katav sifrei toraita. So Ravuna came and he wrote shivim sifrei Torah, meaning 70 sifrei Torah, and it only happened with one, that it got the gova like the hekef. So it only happened with one. Okay? So Rav Bar Yaakov katav chad. Rav Bar Yaakov wrote one of them, amishche de'egel on or of egel v'itramele, and it happened. Yavu b'Rabbananai u'v'nach. So they went and they put him in Ain Hara in Kaddish. Yeah, he passed away. Which one? Amru le Rabbanan le Rav Amnuna. So the rabbis told Rav Amnuna, katav Rabbi Yami arba mea sifrei Torah. Rabbi Yami wrote 400 sifrei Torah during his lifetime. Amaleh, he said, maybe he wrote Torah Tzivah Moshe. That's what he wrote 400 times. You know what it is to write 400 Sifrei Torah in your lifetime? You know what that is? Yeah, it's like...
it's impossible. It's
Yeah,
impossible.
exactly.
It take a year to make
Exactly.
a
So if it's taking a year for a Sefer Torah, you have to live 400 years. Even if you're going to write two a year, that's 200 years. In a sense of, so he went and he said, yeah, he wrote Torah Tzibalan Moshe Barashai. That's what he wrote. He wrote that pasuk 400 times. That's what he wrote. Okay? So Amale Rava Rav Zera, says Rava to Rabbi Zera, Nataba Rabbi Yanai Arba Mea Karme. Rabbi Yanai came and he planted 400 vineyards in his lifetime. Amale, he said, Dilma Shtaim Keneged Shtaim Ve'achat Yotzei Zerav. He said maybe he did 4x4s, and one of them came out like a little tiny like a tail. That's what's called a vineyard kilo, meaning that he did. It's impossible to do such. You understand? I mean, these feats are just impossible. So for obviously we're not doing that. Okay, Meitve. So we're going to ask the following question: Aron shasa Moshe, the Aron that Moshe Rabbeinu did in the Mishkan, Amatay v'chatzi orko, 2.5 was its width, was its length. 1.5 was its width, and 1.5 was the height. So he says, "B'ama bat shisha tfachim." We're talking about an ama that is 6 tfachim. Because remember, there does exist an ama of 5 tfachim. But it's talking about an ama of 6 tfachim. Ve'aluchot. How much is the luchot? Orkan shisha. The length was 6. Rochban shisha. The width was 6. Ve'ovian shelosha. Right? And the ovi was 6. Right? Ovian is the thickness. Ovi. So he says, so therefore they were placed in the Aron, keneged orko shel Aron. You have the picture on the bottom. Okay? So he says, Kama luchot ochlo ba'aron, 12 tfachim. So then it's going to be 12 tfachim. Right? So he says there's going to be 12 tfachim. So he says, Nishtairu sham shosha tfachim. So there was only 3 tfachim. So what do you do then? Semen tefach, take away a tefach, chetzi lukot zeh v'chot zeh, each, right? Each one, when you took away one tefach, each half a tefach was for each sides of the walls. Nishtairu sham shne tfachim. So you have 2 tfachim. Sheben sefer Torah munach. There was a sefer Torah there. Shneimar b'zeh pasuk en ba'aron rak shne luchot avanim meshulnach Moshe. Ma'en ba'aron rak. Rak. When I say there isn't other than en rak, nothing but. So it means it's coming to include. When you have a minimization with another, it's a positive. Minus times 2 is a positive, right? Negative means a positive. So he said, so it comes out that there was a separate Torah which was 2 tfachim. You know what 2 tfachim is? 16 centimeters. Half a ruler. You know the ruler is 30 centimeters? So half of that, 16 centimeters. Okay? So it's nothing. There you have the picture. Look at the bottom. You have 6 and 6, so it's 12. And then you have 2. Girnasta Aron leorko. So you explained to us Aron to its width, to the length, sorry. Well, let's say the width. Kama luchot ochlot. How much does the luchot take in the Aron? 6 tvachim. So now nishtayru sham shosha tvachim. Now you have 9 tvachim, right? Now you have 3 tvachim left. Right? One more time. Well, if you have an amma, how much was Aron? 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. Every amma is 6 tvachim. So the first thing that I have to do is translate it into tvachim. So 2.5 is 15, and 1.5 is 9. So it's basically 15 by 9. So we just explained how much was the luchot. So the luchot was 6 by 6, so it's 12. So you have 12, and out of 15, you have 3 left. But it's not really 3, because one of the 3 was used half for the 2 walls, the thickness of the walls. So you only have 2. So that, I mean, the Aron, I just explained the Aron to the length. What about now the width? Right? Going up to down, right? Which is the width. So now he comes and he says, very simple. How much have we said? It was 9. How much does the luchot take? 6. Beforehand, it was 6 by 6. So therefore, but there were 2 luchot. Now it's always the same width because the luchot are going like this. So therefore, it's not one lucha, like, one luach, 2 luchot. So it's 12. 6 and 6 is 12. Now it's only 6 because it's all this way. So 6, you have 3 left over. So he comes and he says, again, you're going to take 1 off for the kotel, right, for the walls. So now you have 2 left. So it comes out that was going to be the Sefer Torah, right, that it's nichnas yotze kishud dachuk. It comes in and out when it's dachuk. Because basically the Sefer Torah had to be 2 by 2, basically, in order to come in and out. So think about it. It had to be 2 by 2. That means 16 centimeters square. That's small. Dachuk. Pressure. Dochak. The hook is pressure. Press.
You have enough room. Why do you need the hook? Why does it have to be the hook?
Because you only have 2 tfachim left squared. That's a lot of room. This is a tefach. This is a tefach, 8 centimeters. 2 of these. That's a Sefer Torah. That's a Sefer Torah and the height and the width.
You said you have 9. And the Sefer Torah only takes 6.
No, the luchot takes 6. The luchot takes 6, and the wall takes 1. The 2 walls takes 1. So you have 2 of space extra. That's big space for a Sefer Torah. That's why he's saying that it went in the hook, that it went in pressure. It wasn't, you understand? Look how much space it's not a. You needed a space. Yeah, that was a shita of Rabbi Meir. Next shita, Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Be'ama bat chamisha tfachim." We're talking about an ama of 5 tfachim. Ve'aluchot orkan 6, ve'rochban 6, ve'ovyan 3. So he says not like this. He says, really, be'emet. Remember, I told you that there's 2 different shitot. What is an ama? Is an ama 6 tfachim or 5 tfachim? Now we're going with the shita that the ama is 5 tfachim. So now let's do the calculation again, one more time. If the ama is 5 tfachim, if it's 2.5, so how much do you have? 12.5. If it's going to be 1.5, 7.5. So he says, so now if you have the luchot are going to be 6, right? And so then, and 6, right? 6 and 6. So therefore, now you have only 12. So now, you only have a half of a tefach for both walls. So it's basically 1 etzbah for each wall, right? And then that's it. That's all you have. You don't have anything else. Yeah? So he says, okay, so pirnasta aron leorko. You did the aron for the length. What about now the width? So kama luchot ogdot, how much does the luchot take? Right, baron? 6 fachim. So you only have 1.5 left. So you have to take off chetzi tefach, 1.5. So now it comes out that you only have 1 tefach left. That's where you had the amudim of kesef that were there. Meaning inside the aron, you had amudim of silver. Right? Amudav asa kesef, refida tozav, merkavot amagma, the argaz, sheshigru bo plishtim doron Eloi Yisrael, or the present, right, which was, this is like the box, the plishtim sent as a doron Eloi Yisrael, munach mitzido was on the side, shneimar, ואת כלי הזהב אשר בותר שווה תמלוא השם תשימו בארגז, ששילקתם אותו בהלוך. ועליו ספר תורה שנאמר, אין עונת ליד הספר תורה, אבל זה לכל ספר תורה הזה, ושמתם אותו מצד הרום ולית השם. מצד הוא מונח ולא בתוכו. So according to this shita, the Sefer Torah was on the outside, not on the inside. It couldn't be on the inside. Within a half a tefach, how's it going to fit? So therefore, you had like these amudim, which the amudim were, and therefore, right, that it's going on the outside. So umani mekayem en baron rak. So what does it mean now? I'm not going to be mekayem en baron rak. Lerabot, it's coming to include Yudalad Mubet, 14b, right? It's coming to include Shivre Luchot, Shemunachim Baron. The Shivre Luchot were also in the Aron. So it comes out that when Moshe Rabbeinu came down and he broke the Luchot, those Shivre Luchot, he also placed them in the Luchot, in the Aron. So therefore it comes out, Shivre Luchot were also there. That shows you that even the Sefer Torah, which was damaged, or it has holiness, it's the same thing. Shivre Luchot were placed in the Aron. If you're going to come and you're going to tell me, Sefer Torah that Sefer Torah has a kef of 6 tefachim. Michti. Kol sheyesh bekefo 3 tefachim. It's rochav tefach. If it has 3, right? So it has a rochav of tefach. Why, doctor? Why if it? No. Why if it that if you have the circumference 3 tefachim, right? Then you have the width is going to be 1 tefach. Pi. Yeah? 3.14, no? Yeah? So he comes and he says, so therefore he's saying, that he's coming and saying that any single time, that's the klal that we always have. The klal that we always have is, the general rule is that if you have a Sefer Torah that the hekef, that means the circumference is 6 tefachim, right? That means that the width has to be 2 tefachim. It's always going to be the 3.14. Given the lemtzitonikal, now since you're going to always put it in the middle, right? Nafishle mitre tifcha, right? So therefore you're going to have 2 tefachim, ravchat benu benu, which is going to be extra between the 2 amadim. Bitre pushche chiyativ. So now, how does it work then? Meaning, according to Rabbi Meir, how does the Sefer Torah that is going to be less than the 6 tefachim? It's not like Rabbi then. You told me that the best way to do a Sefer Torah is that you have the same circumference at the width. How do you do that? So Amar Rav Yaakov, Sefer Azra litchilato uniga. Says no, it wasn't rolled in the middle; it was rolled at the beginning. And therefore, since the Sefer Torah was rolled at the beginning, it comes out that the rochav was not more than 2 tfachim. Meaning, it all depends how you roll the Sefer Torah. What is the width? He says still, but how does it work in 2 tfachim by 2 tfachim exactly? You know what 2 tfachim by 2 tfachim is? So he answers, Amar Ravashi. Ravashi says, he says you rolled a little bit and then you do the rest of it. You have the picture on the bottom. Everyone sees the picture? Yeah? Okay. Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, Mikame delete argaz Sefer Torah He says, 1 second. Before the box came, where was the Sefer Torah? Meaning, where was the Sefer Torah before the Plishtim gave this box as a present? Where was the Sefer Torah? So he says, right? He says, Dapa avanafik mine, there was like a shelf coming out. V'yati v'leves Sefer Torah, and on the shelf was the Sefer Torah. Meaning the Sefer Torah was on an external shelf. Okay? But Rabbi Meir, and according to Rabbi Meir, what does it mean mitzad harom? As it says, take the Sefer Torah and place it on the tzad harom, B'rit Hashem, on the side. Now, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's good because it's on the side. It's an external shelf on the side. But according to Rabbi Meir, what does he do with that? He says, it means that it's on the side of the Aron. But it's not going to be right between the 2 luchot. But really, but it's on the inside, but on the side. Meaning it's on the inside of the Aron, but on the side of the Aron. That's how you do it. Okay? Where's the Amudim? So he says, the Amudim were on the outside. The Amudim were not on the inside, they were on the outside. Right? So he says, where were they? Menale. So he says, Nafkale mid Ravuna. He learned from Ravuna. The Ravuna might have to mean the Shem Nikra Shem. Shem Hashem Tzvol Yoshev Gomalav. Melamed Shesh Lucho v'Shivre Lucho Bonichim Baron. They learn it that it's inside. Meaning the Shivre Lucho were also inside. That's what it means. Shem Echad. Shem Lamed. It's 2 Shems, because both of them were inside the Aron. So it says, V'idach, another one, Naomi Baile Lech Rabbi Yochanan. He holds like Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan Shimon Yochai. Lamed Hashem v'Chol Kinam Yonachim Aron. It comes out that Hashem Mefurash, and all the Kinuim were also in the Aron. The Idach, in the other opinion, which is Rabbi Meir, Nami Bailelach, he also needs it for this. So he says, in Acheram, you're right. How do we know that Shivrei Meluchot were placed in the Aron? Nafkale, he learns it from the Tanya of Yosef, Asher Shibarta v'Samtam Ba'aron. He says, I'm going to write down the Luchot. That's where it comes to teach you that the Luchot and the Shivrei Luchot were both inside the Aron. The other opinion, he says, he needed it, right? Amarlo HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, Yasher Kochacha, Yasher Koyach, Yash Koyach, as they say, is a short version. Sheshibarta, Chazak Baruch, so you broke the Luchot. Okay, until here we're clear? Okay, very good. This, by the way, is beautiful. I once learned it with some of the Rishonim, and it's actually incredible to see it. Tan Rabbanam, we learned in a Braita. Listen to this. Sidran Shel Nevi'im. What is the Seder of Nevi'im? You have Yoshua, Shofetim, Shemuel, Melachim, Yirmiyahu, Yecheskel, Yeshaya, and Shnemasar. Treasar. Right? Treasar has Hosea, Yoel, Amos, Obadiah, Yonah, Micha, Nahum, Chabakuk, Tzefaniah, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi. Okay? Fine. So those are Nevi'im. So in the Nevi'im, you already have over there, you have Yoshua, Shoftim, Shemuel, Melachim, that's already 4. Yirmiyah, Yecheskel is 6. Yeshaya is 7. And Treasar is 8. Okay? Even though Treasar really is Bemet 12. Okay? Because it's 12 over there. Okay? Fine. Next. Right? Mipene Michdi. Let us see. Hosea Kadim. This is 1 second. Right? Hosea is the first one. Dichtiv, Techila diber Hashem Hosea. Hosea diber Techila. What? He spoke with Hosea at the beginning. He said, look how many Nevi'im were there from beginning of time until Hosea. It was the beginning of 4 different. There was Uziel, Yotam, Achaz, Chizkiah. Hosea, Yeshaya, Amos, Micha. Right? So he comes and he says, so why don't they put Hosea before Yeshaya then? Meaning Yeshaya was before Treasar. So Hosea should come before Yeshaya. So says the Gemara, since it's also written by Chagai Zechariah Malachi, and Chagai Zechariah Malachi was at the end of the Nevi'im, so they put it also towards the end. That means even though Hosea came before Yeshaya, but they still put it towards the end. So says the Gemara, so write it by itself. So he says, and then put it before. So he said, no, I did the Zutar Milkas. Since it was so small, it would get lost. So they had to write the 12 of them together. They didn't want to write it on its own. So Michti, Yeshaya is before Yirmiyah Yecheskel. So why is it Yirmiyah Yecheskel comes before Yeshaya? So he says, Liktam el Yeshaya Bereisha. So it says, since the Melachim is the end, which is basically the end of Sefer Melachim, is the Churban Bet HaMikdash, and Yirmiyah is the entire Churban Bet HaMikdash, and Yecheskel is the beginning of the Churban, and the end is going to be Nechama. So and Yeshaya is the entire thing Nechama. So they did it that way. That means they did the end, which is Churban with Churban, right? Then Churban with Nechama together. One more time. The end of Melachim is Churban. Really, Yeshaya comes first. But Yeshaya is everything Nechama, consolation. So before doing that, they put Yirmiyahu. The Yirmiyahu was the entire thing Churban as well. So you put the Churban beside the Churban at the end of Melachim. Then you put Yecheskel, that the beginning is Churban, but the end is Nechama. So the beginning is destruction, but then it's going to be consolation. And then you put Yeshaya, which is the entire thing consolation, even though it's out of order. You understood? Idran shel Ketuvim. What is the Seder of Ketuvim? Ruth, Sefer Tehillim, Iyov, Mishle, Kohelet, Shir Hashirim, Kinot, which is Echa, Daniel, Megillat Esther, Ezra, V'divrei Yamim. Okay, so that's the other one. So here you also have Ruth, Tehillim is 2, Iyov, Mishle is 4, Kohelet, Shir Hashirim is 6, Echa and Daniel is 8, Megillat Esther and Ezra is 10, V'divrei Yamim is 11. So here you have 11. Okay? Fine. So says the Gemara, but according to the Mandamar that Iyov was during the times of Moshe, why don't you put Iyov at the beginning then? Iyov should be the first one. So he says that we never start with Puranut. You never start with something bad. And Iyov is all full of bad things, so you don't want to start with it. Ruth Nami, but says the Gemara, but Ruth is also something bad. He says Puranut itleacharit. No, but it's a bad thing, but at the end you have an end. You have a good ending. Why was she called Ruth? She's the man of David. Because David HaMelech came out of her. Because David HaMelech made him raveh, made him like satiated. Right? He satiated HaKadosh Baruch Hu with Shirov Tishpachot. So says the Gemara, okay, Chazak Baruch. Now we have the order of Nevi'im and order of Ketuvim. Now the question is, Mi Ketavanu, who wrote them? So Moshe Katav Sifro Uparashat Bilam V'Iyov. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote the Sefer Torah, Bilam, and Yov. Remember, the parasha Bilam is the parasha that it's considered like a parasha within itself because the entire thing was said with Ruach HaKodesh. Because how do you know what Bilam was saying in his mind? Everything else was stories that we had to do with. But parasha Bilam, it was a story of a goy, what he's thinking at home, or what he's doing, or what he's doing. How do we know about that? So that's why it was considered like another parasha. So that's why it says, Moshe Rabbeinu wrote a Sefer, he wrote parasha Bilam, and he wrote also Yov. If you remember, also the Gemara says that if we would have done Kriyat Shema, part of the Kriyat Shema would be Parashat Bilam. The only thing is, it was Tirchat Tzibur, it was too long, so they didn't do it. Right? But if not, so he says Parashat Bilam Yov. Yoshua wrote his Sefer, and the last 8 psukim of the Torah. Okay, because that's where it says that it's already after the death of Moshe. Shemuel wrote his Sefer, right, and he wrote also Shoftim and Ruth. So Shemuel Hanavi wrote Shemuel, Shoftim, and Ruth. David HaMelech wrote Sefer Tehillim through 10 Zekenim. Meaning David HaMelech was not the one that wrote Sefer Tehillim. He was with 10 people that did it. Number 1, Adam HaRishon. Why Adam HaRishon did Kuf Lametet? Kuf Lametet, right? Perek Kuf Lametet was done by Adam HaRishon. Number 2, Malki Tzedek. That was Mizmor Kuf Yod, 110. It says Al Divra Malki Tzedek. Number 3, Avram Avinu, because when it says Maskil Etana Ezrachi was Avram Avinu. The Gemara is going to explain why was Avram Avinu called Etana Ezrachi. Now, next one, Alidei Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? The 10 Pirkei Tehillim from Tzadi, Tefillah LeMoshe, until Kuf was written by Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah, those 10. were done by Moshe Rabbeinu. It's Rashi. Rashi al Midrash Teilim, and also the Met Yaakov and Shemot. Okay, so he did the 10. Okay, some people want to say that Adam and Yishon also did 92, which is Mizmor Shiloi Shabbat, right? But it's still not a contradiction. Okay, fine. Validei Heman, right? Alidei Heman al-Ezrachi, that's Meskile Heman, 88, right? Validei Yedutun, that was 39. Validei Asaf, right, was where it's written Mizmor Asaf. Asaf was Ein Gimel to Pei Gimel, another 10, 73 to 83. Okay, because each one of them starts with Asaf, 10 of them. The 3 children of Korach, Asir el-Kanav Avisaf, they did chapters 42 to 49. Right, that's why it says Livnei Korach Mizmor. The sons of Korach, Livnei Korach Mizmor Ma'yedidom. Well, Livnei Korach, they made a Mizmor. Yeah, but they were at the top of Geinam. We're going to speak about it. So it says over here, these are the ones of Livnei Korach. So it says Yirmiyahu Navi, and by the way, the one that we say for Avelut is Memtet. That's the last one that they did, because that's the one that we speak about by Avelut, that a person does not take everything after him, and that a person should not be like an animal. You should run after kavod. That's the entire thing. It's beautiful. Remember, the entire Torah just goes like this. It's beautiful. You have to learn. If you only come in the mornings, they wrote it. They authored it, right? Yirmiyahu and Navi. So those were the 10 people that wrote it with David HaMelech. Okay. Then it says Yirmiyahu and Navi wrote his own Sefer and Sefer Melachim and Echa. Chizkiyahu and his students, right? They wrote Yeshaya, Mishle, Shir Hashirim, and Kohelet. And Knesset Gdula wrote Yechezkel, Treasar, Daniel, Megillat Esther, and Ezra Sofer wrote Ezra, right? And the Yachas of Divrei Yamin until him. Okay, and Bezat Hashem we continue tomorrow. Bezat Hashem.